What happens when a live television moment spirals into something no one expected? When the calm of a polished morning broadcast fractures, not with chaos, but with something far sharper: emotion, ego, unresolved tension, and the unpredictable energy of two powerful personalities colliding under the heat of studio lights? In this video, we are going to dive deep into a dramatic, cinematic, emotionally intense recreation of a shocking on-air clash. A fully fictional, scripted narrative crafted purely for entertainment. Part 1. The studio felt too bright, even for a morning show. Cameras hummed, the audience murmured with that familiar pre-show excitement, and the hosts shuffled their notes with routine confidence. But beneath the practiced smiles, something electric hovered, an energy no one could quite name yet. Hostin Butler sat in the green room moments earlier, shoulders loose, expression calm, though there was something unreadable in his eyes. He wasn't here as Elvis or Fade or any character the world tried to lock onto him. He was here as himself, a version of himself that he hoped the world might finally understand. But the view wasn't known for gentle introductions. The theme music hit. Applause exploded. The hosts waved. And Hostin stepped onto the stage like a spotlight had been waiting specifically for him. Sunny Hostin leaned forward first, her posture poised, her tone smooth but sharpened at the edges. The kind of tone that announces, not asks, a question. "Hostin, there's been a lot of conversation recently about your intensity on set," she began, fingers interlaced, gaze unwavering. "Directors admire it, co-stars mention it, fans debate it. Some say it pushes boundaries. Some say it crosses them." A subtle ripple moved through the audience. Interest, curiosity, maybe even the beginning of tension. Hostin smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. "I work hard," he said. "I care. That's all." Sunny's eyebrow lifted a millimeter, barely noticeable, but enough. "Caring is one thing," she replied, "but you've been described as hard to approach, consumed, maybe even abrasive." Joy shifted uncomfortably. Sarah glanced at the teleprompter, then at Sunny, then at Hostin. The air tightened. Hostin inhaled slowly. "I think people misunderstand intensity," he said. "Dedication isn't aggression." Sunny leaned back, as if assessing his every word. "So you're saying your colleagues are wrong?" The question was a spark, small but precise. Hostin's jaw set, almost imperceptibly. "I'm saying," he replied carefully, "that stories get exaggerated." Applause scattered through the audience, supportive but confused. They sensed something brewing. Sunny sensed it too. She leaned forward again. "Well, the public has been talking about your emotional volatility," she pressed. "You stay in character for months. You disappear between films. You isolate. People wonder if it affects the people around you." Hostin's breath faltered for half a second, not because he was caught off guard, but because the question hit deeper than anyone realized. Volatility, isolation, character bleed, words he'd heard before. His voice dropped low. "That's personal." Sunny didn't blink. "You came here to talk about your work, and your work includes how you approach it." A murmur rose in the studio. Something cracked in him. Softly, quietly, like the first fissure before a structure breaks. He shifted in his seat, shoulders tensing. "I approach my work with respect," he said, voice firmer. "Respect for the people around me." Sunny countered. "Then why do so many say they feel you shut them out?" The audience gasped lightly, not scandal, but tension. That heavy cinematic tension that swallows entire rooms. Hostin's eyes flickered. Not anger, not fear. Something more vulnerable. Something he didn't want under lights. "Maybe," he said slowly, "because some people only look at the surface." Sunny's reply landed without hesitation. "Or maybe because they see something they're not supposed to ignore." Joy finally intervened with a laugh, forced, brittle. All right, let's not get too heavy." But the temperature had already shifted. Hostin looked directly at Sonny now. No facade, no persona. "I came here to talk about my film," he said, "not to be analyzed like a case study." Sonny lifted her chin. "Public figures are always analyzed. You know that." The audience grew very still. Hostin's voice lowered another octave. "There's a difference between a question and an interrogation." Sonny didn't retreat. "There's a difference between honesty and avoidance." Silence. A thick, cinematic silence. Sarah looked at Whoopi. Whoopi stared down at the table. Joy mouthed, "Oh boy," without sound. Hostin leaned back slowly, breathing out through his nose. "Is this why people hesitate to come on the show?" he asked quietly, almost whispering. "Because they know you're not here to talk. You're here to corner." A wave of sound burst through the audience. Shock, whispers, a few nervous laughs. Sonny responded with razor calmness. "If you feel cornered, that's not my intention. But it might say something about how you handle pressure." That landed like a slap. Hostin blinked once, slow, controlled, not dramatic, but deeply telling. He didn't speak, not for several seconds. Then, "I think we're done here," he said. The audience collectively inhaled. Sonny's expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "We still have questions." "And I'm not answering them," he said, rising from his chair. Camera operators scrambled to adjust. Producers waved frantically from behind the glass. Joy tried to lighten the moment again. "Hostin, wait, let's just reset." But he was already stepping away from the table. The audience watched in stunned silence as he moved toward the edge of the set. Sonny called after him, not angrily, not softly, but with a tone that vibrated through the entire studio. "So that's how you handle difficult conversations?" Hostin stopped. Not fully, just halfway, his back to the table, his breath visible in the outline of his shoulders rising, falling, controlled, but only barely. The studio lights glared off him like a spotlight designed for theater drama, not daytime TV. He spoke without turning around. "At least I don't pretend the ambush is journalism." Gasps. A few cheers. Someone whispered, "No way." Sonny stared at him, unmoving. He didn't wait for a response. He walked off set. Not fast, not dramatic, but with the kind of quiet finality that feels louder than shouting. Cameras cut abruptly. Producers shouted. The audience buzzed like a hive shaken open. And Sonny, still seated, still composed, exhaled slowly, setting her cards down with deliberate stillness. "We'll be right back," she said. Fade to black. Part 2. The backstage hallway was colder than the studio, but Hostin felt hot. Heat rising off him from the inside out. Anger, embarrassment, confusion, maybe even guilt. He didn't know which emotion was loudest, only that they were all demanding space in his chest. He moved quickly, footsteps echoing, hands trembling from adrenaline he didn't want anyone to see. A production assistant hurried behind him. "Mr. Butler, wait, your team?" He didn't stop. Not until he reached the narrow corner past the hair and makeup room, where the hallway turned into a tighter space lined with cables, lighting crates, and emergency signs. He braced both hands against the wall, eyes closed. Everything inside him felt loud. Voices, cameras, audience murmurs, Sonny's questions, his own answers, his own reactions. He wasn't supposed to lose control. Not here. Not like that. His publicist finally caught up, heels clicking fast. "Hostin, Hostin, talk to me." He didn't turn. "I'm not doing that again. You can't walk out on the view." "I already did." "Well, you can't disappear backstage. They're in commercial, but they expect you to return." "Not happening." She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Hostin, listen. This isn't like the films. You don't get retakes. You don't get to rewrite the scene." He pushed away from the wall. "Then why invite me if the narrative is already written?" "She pushed your buttons," the publicist admitted. "But walking off? That becomes the story." He paced, hands on hips. "You think I care about the story right now?" "You should." He stopped pacing, jaw tightening, pulse still thundering. "I'm tired," he said quietly. "Tired of people trying to dissect everything I do. If I'm quiet, I'm brooding. If I'm focused, I'm unstable. If I'm emotional, I'm dramatic." His publicist softened. "I know." "No," he said, stepping closer. "No one knows. They think they know me because of the roles, because of interviews, because of rumors. But they don't see what it costs." She exhaled. "Hostin, you have to go back out there." He shook his head. "We're not done," another voice said. Hostin froze. Sunny stood at the end of the hallway, still composed, still steady, but without the bright studio lights framing her. Without the table, without the cameras. Here, she looked different, human. Not adversarial, but not apologetic either. The publicist stepped back instantly. Hostin stayed still. Sunny approached slowly. "You left before the conversation was over?" He met her eyes. It didn't feel like a conversation. She stopped a few feet away. "It wasn't meant to attack you." "It did." She inhaled lightly. "Then maybe this is the part where we talk without cameras." Hostin crossed his arms. "What do you want?" Sunny studied him for a moment. Not his fame, not his persona. Him. The exhaustion he tried to hide. The strain around his eyes. The tension in his shoulders. "You're passionate," she finally said. "Focused, intense. But intensity doesn't make you untouchable." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means you can sit at a table and still feel threatened. You can be confident and still feel misunderstood. That's human, Hostin. Not weakness." He didn't answer. Sunny continued. "I ask questions for a living, hard questions. It's my job, but I didn't expect you to take them like arrows." He looked down briefly. "Maybe I'm tired of being a target." She considered that. "Maybe. Or maybe you're tired of being seen in ways you can't control." Silence lingered between them, tense, introspective, unresolved. Hostin finally looked at her fully. "So what now?" "We finished the segment," she said, "together, calmly, honestly, no ambush, no crossfire, just conversation." He hesitated. She added softly, "You can reclaim the moment, or you can let the walk-off be the headline." His chest rose with a long breath. A heavy one. A deciding one. "I'll go back," he said at last. "But if you want honesty, you're getting all of it." Sunny nodded. "I'd expect nothing less." Part 3. The studio felt different when they returned. The audience quieter, the hosts more cautious. The air thicker, heavier, charged. But the tension wasn't hostile now. It was anticipation. Hostin walked back to the table with measured steps. Sunny took her seat beside Joy. The cameras blinked red again. Whoopi cleared her throat. "We're back," she said slowly. "And we're going to continue our conversation with Hostin Butler." The applause was softer, tentative, uncertain. Hostin leaned. "Forward, elbows on the table. I want to say something first." Sunny folded her hands, listening. He continued, voice steady. "I'm not perfect with interviews. I'm not perfect with pressure. Sometimes I get defensive. Sometimes I feel like the world is looking for cracks. And maybe that's part of being in the spotlight, but it doesn't make it easier." The audience listened intently. Hostin didn't look at the crowd. He looked at Sunny. "You asked hard questions," he said. "I felt cornered. Maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I didn't. But I should have stayed, so I'm here now." Sunny responded calmly. "And I want to say this. I respect your work. I respect your process. And my questions weren't meant to discredit you. They were meant to understand you better." Hostin nodded once. A fragile truce. Joy chimed in, keeping the energy warm. "Let's reset, okay? Hostin, tell us about the new film." He exhaled, relieved for the shift. "It's a story about transformation," he said, "about identity, and about what it costs to become someone you're not." Sunny tilted her head thoughtfully, not probing, not attacking, just curious. Is that something you relate to personally? Hostin hesitated, then surprised everyone. Yes, he said simply. He opened up, not dramatically, not performatively, but with raw, grounded honesty. About pressure, about expectations, about losing himself in characters, about finding himself again, about how the world sees him and how he's trying to rebuild the parts that fame fractured. The audience leaned in, empathetic, invested. Sonny listened with genuine focus. And for the first time, the conversation felt less like a televised interview and more like two people finally understanding the other's language. When the segment ended, Whoopi wrapped it up gently. "Hostin, thank you for sticking with us," she said. "This was real, and we appreciate real." He smiled, tired but sincere. The audience applauded, warmly, fully. As the cameras cut, Hostin stood. Sonny approached him. They didn't hug. They didn't shake hands dramatically. But they shared a look, an unspoken acknowledgement that something complicated had just unfolded, unraveled, and somehow resolved. Hostin exhaled deeply as he stepped off stage. Not storming this time, not fleeing, just leaving, with weight lifted instead of added. A producer muttered, "That was TV gold." But for once, it didn't feel like TV drama. It felt like humanity, unfiltered, unscripted in its emotion. Scripted only in the sense that sometimes reality, even fictionalized, feels like a scene written by something larger than us. The hallway vibrated with leftover tension, like the echoes of the studio argument had followed Hostin out of the lights and embedded themselves in the walls. The moment he left the stage, the audience's gasps and whispers had poured into the wings behind him, trailing him like a swarm of invisible critics. He didn't slow down, didn't look back. The heat in his chest pulsed like something alive, tightening around his ribs with every step. The studio air, usually cold and conditioned, clung to him like humidity. It felt suffocating. Behind him, a production assistant hurried, trying to keep up. "Hostin, sir, just a second." He didn't respond. His footsteps hammered against the floor. Every part of him felt like it was vibrating, not with anger. Not only with anger. With the shock of being exposed in a way he didn't anticipate. With old wounds pressed too hard. With the frustration of losing his grip on his own narrative. He turned sharply into a narrow backstage corridor and finally stopped near a stack of lighting equipment. The silence here was sharper than the noise outside, sharp enough to cut. He braced both hands, on his knees, and exhaled, long, shaky, unsteady. A moment later, his publicist caught up. "Hostin, Hostin, look at me." He didn't. She stepped closer. "Hey, breathe." He straightened, wiping a hand across his jaw. "I'm fine." "You're not," she said gently. "And that's okay. But we need to handle this." He laughed once, bitter and low. "Handle what? The fact that she came at me like I'm some unstable psycho? That she twisted everything before I could even answer?" "She didn't twist anything," his publicist said carefully. "She pushed. That's what she does." "Yeah, well, I'm not here to be pushed," he snapped, pacing again. "I came to talk about my work, my craft. Not have my entire life turned into a therapy session in front of 100 people." His publicist watched him closely. "You walked off. That means something." He stopped pacing. "It means I'm human." "Sure," she said, "but it also means we're in damage control now." The words hit him harder than he expected. Damage control. He hated that phrase, hated how familiar it was. Before he could respond, another set of footsteps approached, measured, certain, unhurried. He knew who it was without turning. Sunny Hostin stepped into the hallway. Her stage composure softened, but not dissolved. She wasn't flanked by producers or handlers. She wasn't holding her note cards. She was just there, confident, calm, unblinking. "Hostin," she said quietly. His publicist stiffened beside him, instinctively protective. But Hostin didn't speak. He didn't even move, He just stood there, staring ahead, as if deciding whether to acknowledge her or walk deeper into the hallway until he vanished completely. Sunny didn't push. She simply waited. Finally, he turned, meeting her eyes with a guarded stare. "You're coming back here to finish what you started?" She shook her head. "I'm coming back here because that didn't feel like the conversation we were supposed to have." His jaw tightened. "The conversation you wanted was an interrogation." "That's how it felt to you," she said. "No judgment, no threat, just acknowledgement." "But I wasn't attacking you." "You asked about volatility," he shot back. "Isolation, boundaries. You made me sound like I'm out of control."